Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm bringing you an intro to VGC 2014 team building video. Now before I get started, I just want to make sure let you guys know, this is not a full-on team building video in the sense that I'm going to go build a specific team. You can watch the annotated link to see me go through this process. The whole idea is to give you a general understanding of how teams in VGC 2014 are built, at least from my perspective, and all the common checks and things you should have when building a team. So let's get right into it. So the purpose of this video, as I said, is to help you understand the thought process behind building a good VGC 2014 team. It's to give you a general understanding of how you should go about building a team and to help you in constructing your own team, but what this video won't do is help you specifically with the team. Like I said before, you can see the annotated link to see me follow through this team building method. So before we get started, let me just cover the VGC 2014 rules for anyone that doesn't know, because I know a lot of people on this channel are new to doubles and VGC in general, so let's just go over them quickly. VGC 2014 is doubles battle at level 50. You bring 6 Pokemon, but you choose 4 during a battle. There's team preview, of course. It's Kalos decks only, and the Pokemon must have the Pentagon in-game, meaning they cannot be transported from older games. You can transport parents from older games, but you can't use them in actual competition. Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde, and Mewtwo and all non-Kalos Dex Pokemon are banned. General notes about VGC doubles that are different from what you may have played before in Smogon rules or singles. Entry hazards are very rare, full-on stall and baton pass strategies are not really viable because of the timer, and Protect is almost on every Pokemon. Some great resources also before we get started, you can also check the description for these are VCon's Kalos Pokédex, Nugget Bridge's VGC 2014 Speed Tier List, Nugget Bridge's Winter Regionals and Battle Spot Season 2 Team Statistics, Eggy Emporium's eBST List, and Eggy Emporium's Team Builder. With all these resources, this is basically everything you need to actually get a team going, so definitely check all 5 of these out. Nugget Bridge and Eggy Emporium also have a ton of great analysis on previous teams that have been successful at VGC tournaments, and those are definitely the premier 2 websites to go for VGC information and spreads, etc. So the top Pokemon right now in VGC 2014 are, as you see here, Mega Manectric, Mega Charizard, Kangaskhan, Mega Mawile, Salamence, Garchomp, Tyranitar, Talonflame, Rotom Wash, Rotom Heat, Gardevoir, Aegislash, Amoonguss, Meowstic, Ferrothorn, and Scrafty. Now, these aren't by far the best, but these are just the most common, really. The most common 16 that were at Winter Regionals and Season 2 of Battle Spot. So you'll see these definitely on pretty much every team you go against in VGC, whether it's 1 or 6 of these. And I think it's good to look at some sample winning teams before I get into my process. Rizzo this year to win Virginia Regionals brought Mega Mawile, Garchomp, Ferrothorn, Salamence, Rotomosh, Tyranitar. As you notice, 6 Pokemon, all 6 were in the previous 16. Matthew Carter to win Missouri Regionals brought Kangaskhan, Talonflame, Abomasnow, Chandelure, Zapdos, and Mienshao. I really like Matt's team, and I'll link his team analysis also in the description below, but his team was definitely a bit more unorthodox, running like Choice Scarf, Icy Wind, Abomasnow, Chandelure, Mienshao, Zapdos, all Pokemon that are good but have not seen very much use, so he definitely used some pretty creative Pokemon, and he used them really well too. Omari Travis, to go back to a more conventional team, ran a Sun team of Charizard, Venusaur, Scrafty, Garchomp, Rotom Wash, and Gyarados. As you notice, 4 of these 6 Pokemon were on the previous list of 16, and Gyarados and Venusaur actually barely just missed that top 16 cutoff. So, also, relatively standard team, but clearly there's so many viable Pokemon just from these 3 winning teams. So the key components of a team, when I think of, are speed control. How fast is my team, and do I have any way to control the speed, like Trick Room, Icy Wind, Tailwind? Bulk versus offense. How much firepower do I have? Am I too frail to beat most Pokemon, or am I too bulky to really do anything? You really want to find the balance between those two. Synergy and typing. Do I have good overall typing? Can I switch easily between team members? Am I really weak to any one move or type? These are all questions you want to be asking yourself while you're building a team. And finally, no major weaknesses. Does my team have at least one check to every Pokemon in the format, whether common or uncommon? And can I win against strategies like Trick Room, Weather, Dark Void? And can I beat things like Spore and Will-O-Wisp? So those are really the 4 key components I think of when building a team, and they're things I keep on asking myself with each member of the team. And you'll see that this is a process where you kind of build off each Pokemon as you add to the team, and I think it's time to get started on this. So, step 1, choosing a core. Pull up an entire list of Kalos X Pokemon. As I've linked below, I have VCon's list. The easiest place to start when choosing a core is just to choose a Mega Pokemon. Most Mega Pokemon are viable, but Kangaskhan, Charizard, Mawile, and Manectric are easy to work off of, and they're so far the best Mega Pokemon in the format, just based off statistics. Other cores you may want to consider around are obviously other Mega Pokemon, but Weather, such as Charizard Y, Abomasnow, and Politoed, and Trick Room, which has viable users in Aromatisse, Slowking, and Reuniclus. For the example I used in my other video, I had Mega Scizor, so for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with basically my last video. So let's go with Mega Scizor. Once you choose your core Pokemon, you want to look at the common Pokemon that I had basically before and Nugget Bridge's statistics and see what your core is really weak to. For example, Scizor is really weak to Fire-type attacks and Pokemon like Talonflame, Charizard, and Chandelure, so in my video, I added Tyranitar to cover Fire types, because he does a fine job really covering the most common Fire types in the format. And now we get into step 3, which is basically the rest of team building. It's a pretty simple process, but you basically want to keep on building off the previous Pokemon, or your previous core. For example, in this case, once you have 2 to 3 Pokemon, you want to add new Pokemon based off what your current core does not be, and what they're weak to, considering the following factors, which are very similar to the ones I mentioned earlier. Current typing of your attacks and Pokemon, current physical and special split, your overall speed of your team, and your general bulk of your team. In my example, I added Salamence with Choice Specs to get a special and fast Intimidator onto my team, because I noticed both Tyranitar and Scizor were weak to attacks like Earthquake, Water-type attacks, and they weren't really fast, so Salamence really covered everything I needed. Step 4 is just continuing covering your weaknesses. Now I know this seems really general, but it's very important too. With each new addition, you need to keep on thinking about the key components previously mentioned. Make sure that you continue to add members. As you continue to add members, you have at least one way to beat all the Pokemon I mentioned earlier. It's huge in VGC because while there's so many usable Pokemon, you need to make sure that your team basically can cover all your bases, because when you go into a tournament, you have no idea what you'll expect, and chances are if you're playing, 7 to 8 Swiss rounds, you're going to see all kinds of crazy things, so you want some way to beat basically everything. You also really want to think about team synergy. For example, if I have Garchomp with Earthquake, do I have enough Levitators or Flying type Pokemon, or Pokemon with Protect? Otherwise, is it really worth having a Garchomp on the team? And the last step is obviously just testing your team. Once you go through the process of basically starting with a core and building off that core, you want to take your team online to Showdown or Wi-Fi and test it out. There's often going to be a weak link to your team, a Pokemon you barely bring. I know in previous teams that I've built, I've had 5 Pokemon that seem to work perfectly, and the 6th Pokemon that just doesn't work well at all with the other 5. And, to counter this, you should edit your team accordingly. For example, I see that I'm weak to a certain Pokemon, so I'll remove that weak link for a new one that counters the specific Pokemon that I'm weak to. Some common VGC information for you guys that are new to Lysine. Items that you'll see on basically every VGC team. A combination of these include a Megastone, a Citrus or Lumberry, a Focus Sash, a Choice Scarf or Band or Specs, Life Orb, Rocky Helmet, Leftovers, and Safety Goggles. These are all really common items in VGC 2014, and you should either have them on your team or prepare for them because they're just so essential. If you're building a VGC 2014 team, chances are you'll have at least 3 or 4 of these items just because they're all so fundamentally good. Common natures these are really the 10 natures that you see. Jolly and timid, adamant and modest, brave and quiet, bold and calm, impish and careful. The other, I think, 15 natures aren't aren't really used. These basically cover all your bases, and you should build that accordingly. Speed is key in VGC, and so Jolly and timid tend to be really common for fast Pokemon, obviously, like Garchomp. Adamant and modest are for bulkier Pokemon that can really take hits but still want to dish out good damage. Bold, calm, impish, and careful are all defensive natures, obviously, depending on whether you want the Pokemon to be slower. And for example, you'd use Brave on a Ferrothorn to increase the damage output of Gyro Ball. Some more common VGC information. Spread moves are very common. Expect to see moves like Earthquake, Rock Slide, Heat Wave, for sure on basically most teams. Rock Slide is such a good move in VGC as is Earthquake. Of course, with spread moves, because it's doubles battles, the damage is decreased to 3/4 of the original damage. For example, Earthquake's base power is 100, but with double battles it decreased to 75. Nonetheless, it's still really, really good. Rock Slide has been one of the most dominating moves in VGC since VGC's actually started because it hits both Pokemon and it gets a good flinch chance, 30% of flinching either Pokemon. Of course, you have to deal with bad accuracy too, but definitely prepare for Rock Slide because it's one of the most annoying moves to go up against. Intimidate is a fantastic ability, and it has been in VGC since forever. Definitely expect to see that, and it's one reason why you don't want to bring too many physical attackers, or you want a way to at least counter Intimidate, such as Defy and Bisharp. Moves that inflict status are also common. For example, Spore, Dark Void, and Sleep Powder all to put Sleep, which is one of the best, I'd say arguably the best status in VGC. Will-O-Wisp for burns, and Will-O-Wisp got a lot better because the accuracy is increased to 85. Thunder Wave to paralyze Pokemon, a great means of speed control, although not that many Pokemon learn it. Swagger just to be really annoying. Swagger can turn battles completely around, as I know, and it's just really good if you can fit it on a team. Most Pokemon that carry these moves are more support Pokemon. For example, Swagger and Thunderwave are often on Meowstic and Klefki, Spore is on Amoonguss, Will-O-Wisp is on Bulky Rotom, etc. So here's a general checklist that you should prepare for once you start building your team. The list of most common VGC 2014 Pokemon, obviously. Prankster spam, such as Swagger and Thunderwave. Quick Guard is a great way to beat that. Sleep from Smeargle, Amoonguss, and Venusaur. Lumberry and Safeguard are excellent options. Other grass types to beat Amoonguss and Venusaur because they're now immune to those powder moves. Speed control, Tailwind Trick Room abilities such as Swift Swim and Chlorophyll. General bulky Pokemon are great here. Your own speed control is great. Weather to oppose the rain and the sun are also great to shut it down. Spread moves such as Rock Slide and Earthquake. Wide Guard is a great option to beat that, and those two moves are really, really good, and spread moves are really good in general, but the thing is, because they're only doing 3/4 of normal damage, damage output is significantly lower, so if they're not against super effective Pokemon, chances are they're not going to be 2-hit KOs on your Pokemon, so use that to your advantage, especially with Pokemon that resist. And finally, the hacks factor. It's a factor that we don't talk about as much in Pokemon because a lot of people just accept Pokemon for being an inherent luck-based game, but I think you can control hacks to a certain factor, or just luck in general, flinches and critical hits. For example, if you're using fast Pokemon like Aerodactyl, and Aerodactyl's the one using Rock Slide before any other Pokemon, you're optimizing your chances each turn because you're the one who's moving first, and you're the one who's making it more difficult for your opponent to attack. So you definitely want to consider that when building a team. Do you have a team that's really just too slow and can easily feint to rock slides and flinches, because that's not something you want to deal with? Do you have a way to come back from critical hits, etc.? And so that's it for an overall description of VGC 2014. You can obviously see the description for all the helpful links in making your own team. You can see the annotated video to see me go through this specific process. And the next team building video will walk you through each step more specifically. This is basically to help anyone with a lack of VGC knowledge get into doubles and understand the format. Obviously, I didn't go through very specific examples, but the whole concept in, I think, VGC team building ends up just coming down to one thing, finding a core and building off of that core. And if you can really do that, you'll be successful. And with all the links I've given you, especially I think Eggy Emporium's team building list to check your weaknesses and resistances and etc., I think that's huge. And in general, you can just kind of eyeball a team of 6. If you look at it and see, okay, I'm not really weak to any one common Pokemon, I have ways to check everything, then you should be fine off. But this is just a vague video, obviously. It's not very specific. Once again, you can check my annotated video to see me actually go through the process. And the next video is definitely going to focus on each part more intricately and focus on the whole process in general. I also think it's important to keep in mind that, in this video I kind of mentioned a lot of common Pokemon, but not as many unconventional Pokemon. And so in the future videos, I'll definitely be trying to build around Pokemon that aren't so common, because I think that's an important factor in the game too. As 3-time world champion Rizzo said this year, you can either use the same team as everyone else and give yourself the equal chance of winning. Really, you have to depend on outplaying your opponents, or you can find something that's beats everyone else, a Pokemon that people haven't really seen before. For example, in 2012, Wolfie Glick used Executor to get second at Worlds, a Pokemon that really had seen no use beforehand. This year, Rizzo introduced Careful Mawile to the format. Before, Mawiles were basically brave and adamant, and he used a bulkier version. And so that kind of innovation is really important too. But this video is not as much about the creativity, it's more about how you build a team and how you go about building a team and what things you should keep in mind while building a team. That's it for today, guys. And I'll definitely, let me know what you guys thought about the video, the process. Obviously, it's very vague. So this is kind of the introduction video to a whole series of VGC team building videos. Let me know what you guys thought. Rate, comment, subscribe, of course. The more likes and comments I get, obviously, the more inclined I'll be to bring you another video as soon as possible. Until then, I'll see you next time. Peace, guys.